Hello, hello everyone. Welcome back to another stream. Let me just make sure my microphone is working. It is. Every once in a while, OBS decides to instead use my microphone as my audio input. Instead decides to use some audio input that I have no idea what the hell it is. It's just a string of letters and numbers. I really don't know what the hell it is. But it looks like it's using the right one this time. So hopefully you guys can hear me. And hopefully the music isn't too loud. But hopefully it is still audible. And if all of those things are true, then, doing a little coding, we're going to move on to the main meat and potatoes of today's stream, which is painting in some crystals in this commission. Now, this was a commission that I started working on a couple days ago. I was working on it yesterday during the stream. I was talking about the goofy reference picture that I took of myself, as you can see right there. The bottom corner of the screen is the reference picture that I took and then composited in order to help me get a better idea of sort of the different kinds of textures that I wanted to paint in. And then on the right side of that reference picture is the image that the client who commissioned this piece sent to me. I'm still not sure if that's their own artwork or if it's artwork that they had another artist, that they commissioned another artist to do. Either way, that's what I'm working off of, and I'm sort of using that as my secondary reference to sort of get an idea of what the client wants. And I'm at a very fun part of the process now where I've finished sort of my lines and my underdrawing, and now I'm moving on to painting the crystals. Now, I love painting crystals because I like painting things that have very, very intricate structures to them and sort of simplifying that. Like certain things, it's kind of hard to simplify. Like it's hard to simplify machinery, right? Because machinery has a lot of very specific parts and pieces that are required in order for the machinery to work. You can simplify machinery, it's possible, but I don't find it as fun. What I like is simplifying things like crystals or fire. Things that do have shape and form, but when you look at them, it's sort of hard to sort of decipher that in a simple, stylized way. But I enjoy doing that, and specifically the kinds of crystals that we're going to be doing in this illustration are rock candy crystals, so sugar crystals. And I've already started here on the shoulder. This is sort of the level of detail that I'm trying to get with the piece, and unfortunately, looks like the app that I'm using to stream is kind of overexposing this a little bit. It's a little brighter on your screen than it is on mine. I don't know if you can, if me holding up my iPad would make a difference, but as you can kind of see, like it's a little bit darker on my screen. The camera makes it look even darker than it actually. Picture somewhere in between what I just showed you on my camera and what you're seeing on the screen right now, and that's actually what it looks like. I'm sorry that it's not quite the right level of exposure. So anyway, that is what we're going to be working on today. So feel free, stick around, ask me any questions you might have, and we can just hang and chat about art and other things. Yes, it does suit me. I have a very geometric approach to everything, actually, not just my painting style, but also my sketching style too. I like to simplify things into geometry, and that's, you know, something I like about painting fire, because, you know, fire, you know, crystals definitely have shape, right? They have physical form that we can hold and touch and feel and look at in 3D. Fire, not so much, right? It does have shape and form, but you can't hold fire. You can't rotate fire. You know, fire moves, it's constantly changing shape, it's never really the same shape as it was, you know, half a second before when you looked at it, but you still can simplify it in a really fun way. I like doing that. Alright, so what I've done here, it kind of might actually be hard to realize, but I have blocked out the color underneath the lines of this illustration, but I've made it the same color as the canvas. And the reason I do that is because if you use the white of your canvas as the strongest highlight in your composition, that highlight is going to feel a lot more impactful. So I want to make sure that the strongest highlights here in the crystals or anywhere else on the character are as strong, but not stronger than the canvas itself.
All right, I feel good.
So now that I have this, color blocked out, I can put a clipping mask on so I don't have to worry about going outside of the lines. Go to my textured wash brush, and then I can just sort of start layering in color. Now, on my reference picture, it's kind of hard to see on this tiny little screen here, but I'm looking at a much bigger image of my reference image. But the thing to remember about crystals is that it's a bunch of small shapes all making up one big shape, and each one of those little crystals that makes up the full object is catching light in a different way. So they overlap with one another. Some allow light to pass right through them, and others, the light can't pass through quite as well because it's behind or in front of or in between other crystals. So where the crystals are the thickest, the least amount of light is going to go through, and that's where you get most of your saturation and most of your color. So like here's where like the crystals are the thickest, so it's the darkest. So that's where I use the darkest colors. But then the parts where the crystals are coming out of the sides of the big shaft of crystals, that's almost transparent. That's like the same white as the background of the canvas. I'm a beginner. I've been trying to learn shape and anatomy slow and not so steady. I've been thinking about trying to learn colors. Should I try it out, or is too much stuff on the plate? Color and anatomy are two very different things. Color is usually something that you apply more to painting, and anatomy is something that you apply more to draftsmanship, right? So draftsmanship, kind of a fancy way of saying drawing. Draftsmanship uses line, right? It uses precise mark making to indicate specific information. So there's a difference between, an impressionist painter doing a very, not an abstract, but an impressionist portrait that's entirely made up of color and brushstrokes, and like a classical artist, sort of like a Da Vinci-esque, classical illustrator who wants to get specific information. So I would say focus on one thing at a time. Start with anatomy. If you're doing anatomy already, just start with anatomy and learn skills around the idea of draftsmanship, around illustration, indicating shape and form through line. And then once you've moved on from there, then you can start implementing color. Color was one of the last things that I don't know, not last thing, I'm still learning, but I mean, in terms of my timeline as an artist and my progression, color is a relatively new thing that I've been learning. The other thing I want to do with these crystals here is I want to imply a little bit of a gradient. So the crystals are coming, and this is something that you sort of have to improvise. It's not something I really have a specific reference for, but the crystals are sort of coming out of this character's body. He's being corrupted from the inside, and the crystals are coming out of the body. So I sort of want to indicate in a way that they are growing out from some sort of power within this character. So I want it to be lighter where they're coming out and get a little bit darker the further away from the body they get. Yes, you can eat these crystals. So this character is a Jawbreaker Knight. The client told me that this is a Jawbreaker Knight that is being corrupted by rock candy, which I think is a super cool concept. I was very excited. I was talking about this yesterday. I was very excited when I got this client's. Oh, don't mind that. It's Photoshop yelling at me. When I got this client's commission, because I thought this was a super cool idea. Draftsman trying to get better at painting. I totally get you there. Like I was saying, that's sort of where I was. Before I went to art school, I really only just drew with like a pen and pencil, which is fine. But I didn't really have any idea how to, like, color was always like an afterthought. Like I did like really nice line drawing that I liked, and then I just sort of like colored over it with, you know, mixed results, as you might assume. So for me, learning color was a process of shifting my understanding of form through line into an understanding of form through color. So again, that's where geometry kind of plays a role. And when I say geometry, I don't mean actual math. I mean just like shapes, right? Geometry is just the study of shapes. And I'm not good at math, but I do like shapes because shapes to me remind me of line work. If I can find the shapes in amorphous subject matter, I can sort of understand them in the same way that I understand my line work. So I would say try drawing things from life and finding the shapes in those things that you see in real life. Some things it's easier than others, right? Like if you have a hard object like this, it's very easy to identify where the hard lines and the shapes are. And then, you know, when you look at, that's the outside, that's where your lines are. But then when you come in and you start looking at things like the shadows that they're casting, or where the light hits them, the shadows that other objects are casting, how light goes through it, find the geometry in those things as well. Find the geometry in color. So I was talking about this sort of bit yesterday, but like if you look at this little Magikarp figure, I have my light over here that's hitting it. You can see shapes where the light, obviously you see shapes where the form of the Magikarp is, but then you also see shapes within the Magikarp in the colors. You can see a nice strong line here where the shadow is on this little ridge. You can see a little bit of highlight here, a little triangle of yellow where the highlight is. You can see like in where the material gets a little translucent, you see strong highlights here, and you can paint those as shapes, and you can kind of find those as shapes and block them in, sort of how I'm painting right now, block them in some sort of hard geometric shape. Now obviously that's a lot easier when your subject matter is something like rock candy, which is already very geometric, but you can apply it to everything, and it's going to give you this kind of cool, stylized, very geometric look to your art. An artist that I really like, a sort of old school classical artist that a lot of illustration teachers will probably tell you about if they are like older than 50, is J.C. Leyendecker. And he's an illustrator from, I think around the 20s, I think was his heyday. He did illustrations for the cover of the Saturday Morning Post, just like Norman Rockwell. But he has a very, very geometric way of stylizing color and stylizing form. And he chops up everything into these big, chunky, geometric brush strokes. So look at him, look at his sketches, look at his paintings, and find that technique. Oh, there is someone spamming in the chat. Don't worry. I'll get rid of that. No problema. Been fortunate that that doesn't happen too often in the chat. But every once in a while we get someone being a pain in the ass. Let's go ahead and ban this fella. All right. There we go. Go ahead and problem solved. What jobs did I have before YouTube? Not too many, honestly. When I graduated college, I was working for my school's on-campus art supply store. It was just like a shitty retail job. It wasn't too shitty. It was just no one wants to work a retail job for their entire life. Excuse me. So that's how I was just like making money to pay rent and stuff and buy food. And then right before I graduated, I actually got hired doing thumbnail art for a YouTube channel called Dabacab. Now, I don't think he still exists, but he doesn't make the same content anymore. He used to make like Overwatch compilation videos back when Overwatch was like super popular. And this was like 5 years ago. So I was doing like super clickbaity thumbnails with like Tracer's ass in them and when I say doing them, like I proposed that I illustrated them. He was like, nah, just like use Photoshop and composite them. Like for some reason this wasn't something he could do himself, and I was like, fine, if you want to pay me to do this, I'll do this. So I was like, making these thumbnails where it was like Tracer's ass and like, oh, how triple kill on Roadhog, environmental triple kill or something like that. Crazy shit. And then he also had me doing Fortnite stuff because like Fortnite was getting really popular around that time. So I was doing that. And that was my kind of first introduction to the professional side of YouTube. And I found out that this guy made a ton of money. And his YouTube channel, I'm sorry, Dabacab, was stupid. It was literally it wasn't his compilations. He literally just found clips from players. He didn't even play Overwatch. He just found clips from people who played Overwatch and Fortnite and just put them together in like 10-minute long compilation videos. And he got like 100,000 views per video, and he uploaded about 2 videos a week. So he was making back. He was making tons of money, and obviously enough money that he could pay someone else to do his thumbnail designs for him. And I remember thinking like, wow, okay, there's a legitimate career here. What if we could do something like that? But of course, not just do something that's really easy and would make us good money. Like, what if we did something that we loved and that we cared about and made that into a YouTube channel and tried to make a career out of that? And so I told my friends, I was like, let's try making a YouTube channel. And after some time, Subjectively was born. And it took a long time for Subjectively to start making money. I wasn't making money off Subjectively for like maybe a year and a half after I made the channel. I was sort of supporting myself with commissions, but for the most part, Claire was making all the money. Claire had a job at like a cosmetic boutique as like a sales representative, and it was a terrible job, but she was pretty much the only one making money between the two of us. And I was just trying to get the YouTube channel off the ground. I was getting like some commissions here and there. At a certain point, my Instagram got really big when I started doing like the Pokemon armors, and I started making some money doing commissions like Pokemon armors and stuff off of Instagram. But yeah, I didn't really start making a consistent YouTube paycheck until, yeah, probably like a year and a half, like 2 years after we first made the channel. Yeah, I believe Dabacab now also has like a really super, I want to say lazy. I don't want to slander Dabacab on live on stream. But it's just like I think he just reads like Reddit posts. I remember my sister telling me a while ago, she was like, so yeah, I was watching these videos that was just like, and she was like, I was like falling asleep and I was watching these stupid videos and it was just like reading Reddit posts, and I know they're stupid, but I was just listening to them on loop, and then I realized the channel's name was Dabicab, and I was like, wait, is this the guy you used to work for? I was like, yes, it is. Thank you, Bofrab. No, what happened was, oh yeah, it was something like that. I remember being, yeah, I remember we were in Bar Harbor, actually. We were in your mom's house the summer after we graduated, and he hadn't given me anything new in a couple, I think his channel was not doing as well. Like, the people were sort of losing interest in, like, Overwatch videos, and I don't think he was making as much money. And he just sort of stopped talking to me, and I remember reaching out to him and being like, bro, if you don't want me to do any more work for you, just let me know. And then he still didn't say anything, and I was like, alright, dude, it's been real, talk to you later. And then I never spoke to him again. His wife was super nice. His wife, like, managed the money and stuff, so she would give me, like, the payments. She was super chill. He wasn't a bad guy in any way. I shouldn't say that, you know, I shouldn't make it seem like he was a bad guy. He was not a bad guy. I mean, I don't think he really even considered himself a boss. I think he was just like, here's some random kid on the internet who I can pay, you know, not no money, but not a lot of money to make YouTube thumbnails for me, and, you know, I can just ghost him when I don't need to pay him anymore, when I don't want to pay him anymore. Like, I don't think there was ever a ton of professionalism in our relationship. Or at least it didn't feel like that. How do you shade colors on colored pencil and paper? Do you use a regular pencil, or do you use a darker colored pencil that's the same color of the colored pencil that you're using? So, I don't work with colored pencils specifically, but in color theory, there are different approaches to the way you want to render light and dark, render your values, right? With colored pencil, you can blend colors, and when I say blend, I don't mean smudge them. I mean you can overlay two different colors. If you have a red and a blue, and you rub the blue over the red, you get these nice kinds of middle tones as the red shows from underneath the blue. Now, when you're talking about color theory, there are some colors that are darker and some colors that are lighter. If you wanted to shade something that was red, you could use a darker shade of red, but you could also use blue, because blue on the color spectrum is darker than red. So if you did that, it might give your subject matter a little bit more dimension. It depends on the setting of wherever your character, or whatever it is that you're illustrating, is in. I'll grab something else here as an example. So like my little Krogunk here. Now it's in the foreground. Don't really see the light anymore. I could use my face. That probably works better. So if you look at my face right now, there's a light shining from over here. And where the light is hitting my face, my skin looks tan, yellow, pinkish, right? Where this light is hitting the most is yellow. And I have a yellow light over here, so it looks yellow. If you were to color this, you'd use a yellow right here. Now, as it sort of shifts into the shadows, you can obviously see where it's brightest, where it's darkness. As it shifts into the shadows, it doesn't just become a darker shade of yellow, it actually becomes a little blue. So the darker colors here are actually reflecting the colors of the wall behind me. See how the wall behind me is kind of blue? It's not, it's a white wall, but because of the way atmospheric perspective works and the way the colors are hitting the light in my room right now, the wall looks blue. And my face is actually reflecting that light. So the darkest part of my face isn't actually this side, it's right here, like right where my nose is on my face. That's where it's really dark, because this isn't reflecting any light. This is just dark. Also around my eyes is very dark too, because that's not reflecting any light either. And these mid-tones, there's a little bit of pink, like around my lips, but there's also a lot of blue. A lot of blue, gray, and then there's red in my beard, and then right here, I would actually use like purple for this part. To get really dark here, you'd use purple. Now, I'm summarizing here, but basically, this is why having a strong reference is really important. light doesn't really work in a way that's just light to dark. Different structures and different surface materials absorb and reflect light in different ways. Now, on the other side of that, if you have something like this that has a golden texture to it, the darkest parts of it also reflect light, but when they reflect light, you can actually see the image of whatever they're reflecting in the side, which creates these little bands of light. So you can see my finger being reflected in that light. So when you're painting something metallic, you want to make sure that you can capture whatever it is that that metallic surface is reflecting. I wish my camera would focus on this a little bit. It's always a nice idea to have little things like this around if you're an illustrator, so you have real-life references to give you an idea of how light interacts with different kinds of surfaces. You know, something that's a crystal. Actually, do I have anything that's a crystal? I don't have any crystals. I need a crystal on my desk. That'd be very helpful right now. So yeah, the general rule is that highlights are warm, shadows are blue. That's the most common way you see it. But you can invert that. You can completely subvert it and make something that's very striking. You can make all of your shadows red and all of your highlights blue. But yes, when you're learning color, understand that something that's dark is not just a darker version of whatever color it is. You know, everything depending on the texture of the thing and the lighting that it's, you know, currently being struck by, you know, it's going to absorb and reflect light in different ways. I should order a $500. I would get like one of those like crystal dragon things. I want the pewter wizard holding a crystal. You didn't get me the pewter wizard holding the crystal. Just someone needs to buy me some of those Lord of the Rings collector boosters for Magic the Gathering. That's my wizard intake. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go over to my lines and I'm gonna make a clipping mask, and I'm just gonna color those lines green for now. Give the crystals a sense of transparency. They don't have the same hard edges as the other surfaces. Well, they have hard edges, but the way light shines through them, they look less solid. So I want to show that by changing the light, changing the color of the lines. It is candy. Yes. This is the Jawbreaker Knights, cursed by the rock candy curse. I don't know the full lore. I'm assuming whenever I get a commission like this, I always assume that it's like a tabletop RPG character. But it might just be this person's original character. Why did I say it like that? Am I from like Buffalo? Original character. Excuse me. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's what this stream is for. The stream is for asking any questions and talking about wizards. That's what it's all about. So now the light and like wisp coming out of Bro's eye here, that's not going to quite be crystals. This is more ethereal. It's gonna kind of be like fire, but green. Do I think Game Freak should make more Legends games? Well, I mean, I think we all really enjoyed Legends Arceus. I think it's one of my favorite core series Pokemon games that I've ever played. I think it would be fun if they brought it back, but I could also see it being a one-off thing. I would definitely play another one if they made another one. Hopefully some of the graphics get updated a little bit. I accept commissions through Instagram. I am not available for commissions right now. I am actually a little backed up on commissions, so I'm not taking any new ones until I finish the ones that I have, but I'm hoping to do that within the next week or so, so I can open up again as soon as possible. Do I have any tips for improving line art in digital programs? I find that my line art tends to be really pixely. Well, if your line art is pixely, there's probably one of two problems. A, the brush that you're using is not optimized for whatever program you're using. Now, if it's one of the brushes that comes with the program, that's probably not the case. So if that's not the case, which seems likely that that isn't the case, the other thing is that you might just be using too small of a resolution on your canvas. I always work at 300 dpi, which basically means that whatever the size of my canvas is, I can scale it up or down and it won't lose its resolution. You know, I can't scale it up like 500 feet, but I could scale like an 8-inch by 11-inch canvas up to like a 20-inch by, 32-inch canvas or whatever I need it to be. The other thing that I've realized is that the screen resolution of whatever hardware you're using, I don't know if you're working with Procreate on an iPad, but when I had my smaller iPad that was a couple years old, I couldn't zoom in very far before my brushes started looking pixelated. And I think that actually had something to do with my screen resolution, because now I have a much larger iPad with a much better screen resolution, and I can zoom in much further before but now it starts to look pixelated. But I can zoom in to about this point, and I don't lose resolution, which was not the case on my other iPad. So I think that might be a contributing factor as well.
It could also be that the canvas is too big and you're scaling down the brush too big.
That could also be the case. Again, maybe it's an issue with the brush if you're scaling up the canvas too large. But usually brushes don't let you scale them up to the point where they get that pixelated. Yeah, if it's a custom brush that you bought online, it's possible. I've seen that commissions are usually $50 to $150. Do you know any reason why? Do I know why people price their commissions at that level? I would imagine people price their commissions based on how much time it takes for them to complete them. This is our profession. If you are a professional illustrator, you need to value your time in a way that would compensate you equitably for the time that you invest in your piece. That's a skill that you have to develop as an illustrator. Being able to evaluate how much your time is worth and how much people are willing to pay you for your time. It's basically a bit of you got to try to feel it out. When I first started, I priced my commissions like what you're saying for like the $50 to $75 range, because I didn't have a lot of demand for commissions. I was getting a commission like once every couple of weeks. So I figured like, hey, I'm not going to turn someone away because they might think my prices are too high. Like, I'm going to ask for something kind of low so I can make sure I'm getting some money instead of no money. But then as I got more and more commissions and my skills improved, and it's sort of kind of a resonance cascade there. I got more commissions. I was able to do more work. My skills improved. More people saw me. More people had demand for my work. And my time became more valuable. Now, I don't really like thinking about things like time and effort and quantifying that in terms of money. But unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I got to pay rent. I gotta feed my dog. I gotta feed myself. And so I think that, you know, you do have to, as an independent illustrator, you have to be able to make sure that when you sit down and you work on an illustration for 8 hours, that you get compensated for that time, so that, you know, you can afford to do the things you need to do. I actually, so this commission was, I believe I charged $200 for this commission. And that's because, like I said, I have a lot of demand for commissions. I spend a lot of time on my commissions, and I believe that is what my time is worth. And you need to be able to sort of project that confidence as an independent illustrator. But you also need to be able to, you know, read the room. You have to be able to, you know, look at, you have to be able to evaluate how many people are interested in your work, and you have to be able to understand that, like, you know, if you're not getting a ton of demand for your artwork, you have to kind of ask for something a little bit lower than maybe even you feel like you're worth, just so that you can keep business moving. And then the more work that you get, the more you can ask for. And usually, hopefully, the more work you get, the more your work improves, and the more people will want to hire you to do more work. Yeah, I do think that there is, I mean, for forever, I think for as long as artists have existed in human society, people sort of undervalue what goes into the work they do. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to say that an illustrator's work is the same thing as, like, a doctor's work. I'm not going to save anyone's lives with my illustrations, but I do believe that, like anyone else who needs to make a living in order to survive, I should be fairly compensated for the time that I put into my work. Because I don't think a lot of people realize how much of what they enjoy from their day-to-day life is done by a professional illustrator who was, hopefully, paid to make that. You know, you go to watch a Marvel movie, everything you see in a Marvel movie was made by an artist. Even if you consider, you know, directing, screenwriting, filmmaking in general, that's an art form, and those artists need to be paid for the CGI that they do, for the character designs that they come up with, for the sound editing, for the visual effects editing. Usually when you see a Marvel movie, the people who are doing those things are not being paid enough. And it shows. And then people complain about Marvel movies and they say they look terrible, because the artists who are working on those movies aren't getting paid enough for the time that they are demanded to do. Then you see a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and you see a culture of that workspace where artists are not only appreciated, but they are an important part, an integral part of the process of creating a movie like that. It's not just a money-making venture. It's not just like, hey, here's a way to make money, we can make a movie about Spider-Man. They are telling a story. They have a message that they want to tell people. They have an idea that they want to share. They have music and images and a story that gets people excited and gets them excited. Something like Arcane, too. You know, a small independent animation studio, you know, gets the rights from a big, massive video game company like Riot, and they say, listen, take this and do something beautiful with it. And then they do. And of course, they do end up making a ton of money off of it because, you know, it's such an amazing and unique piece of art. But, you know, I think the perspective going into it, if you go into something thinking, how can I make money off of this? In my opinion, it's just not going to be as impactful of anything. It just won't be as impactful on anything as it would be if you went into it, with some other intention. I'm not saying that, you have to do something other than make money. If your goal is just to make money, then go ahead, go make money. But I feel like creative industries suffer a little bit when the main goal is to make money and everything else is sort of an afterthought. Or not even that it's an afterthought, but they just like, this is the way to do it that will make us the most money. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate my art skills? 1 being not skilled and 10 is in very skilled. I would definitely never rate myself or anyone else on a scale of 1 to 10 when it comes to artistic abilities. If you wanted to ask me to rate myself on my ability to play League of Legends, I'd give you a number on a scale of 1 to 10. It'd probably be a little south of 5. If you wanted to ask me on a scale of 1 to 10 how athletic I am, I could definitely give you a number there. Again, probably south of 5. But artistic skills don't think are something that you can quantify in a way like that. There's just no way to compare artist skills on just a set slider from least skilled to most skills, because different artists do different things. I think maybe I'm more skilled than some artists that do the same kind of artwork that I do, but I don't think that I'm more skilled than like a 2D artist that makes like bold pop art, or a 2D artist who does portraitures. I don't think that I have that same skill. So I saying my art skills on a scale of 1 to 10, I couldn't give you a number. I think I could evaluate myself in terms of like how good I am at marketing myself as an artist and how good I am at making money with my art. I'd say I'm about a 7 or an 8 on that scale. I think I make a living for myself as an artist, so I'd say I'm pretty good up there. But as far as like generally like my skills as an artist, I don't think I could give you a scale of 1 to 10.
Also probably not productive to think about art that way.
Yeah, it's not a good, again, that's exactly what I was sort of talking about. That's like a business mindset to sort of evaluate things on like this set scale of, I don't know, productivity, skill, efficiency, and that's not really the goal with my art. Maybe it's the goal with some people's art, but my goal is not to just be better than someone else. My goal is to tell the stories and share my ideas with the world. And so I don't think I can evaluate that way. And I would advise that other artists don't evaluate themselves that way either. Chat says hi, Claire.
Ask Chat what kind of funny long form YouTube video we should watch while I'm working.
Claire's looking for suggestions for funny long-form videos to watch while she's working. Oh, I thought of something else that I want to add into these crystals. That's right, after I finish blocking in the colors for this one, I want to try taking like a spray paint brush, a little flecks, and try putting, because I'm looking at this image here, and there are these little flecks, little white flecks inside the candy. I think that would help make it look even more like delicious confectionery treats. Watch the entire Runaway Guys amazing mirror playthrough. Don't know any of those things. Doll making videos, someone is suggesting. We need a name for doll making. What's the best doll maker on a scale of 1 to 10?
Was like watching
Um, Claire Jaden Nuzlocke.
Jaden, oh,
Jaden, yeah. How can I train to improve my shapes in character design and make more interesting silhouettes? That's a tough question. I don't actually know that myself. That is something that I'm still working on. Silhouette design, I think, is something I struggle with. I have a hard time letting myself be free and uninhibited with my character designs in terms of silhouettes. Even this one, like, I'm happy with this, but everything is very crunched together. And it doesn't make for the most interesting silhouette. I would say something that I've realized that helps me a lot is including negative space within the silhouette of your design. So, like, just real simple here. Like, this shape versus, like, I don't know. See, like this I struggle with this kind of thing, but like, I don't know, like breaking up the silhouette on the inside and giving some negative space on the inside. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I can give you great advice on that because this is something that I'm still working on myself. But I'll tell you my most recent revelation, and actually I've been learning this through my Fakemon designs, is to add negative space within the silhouette. Actually, that's one of the better examples I can give you. Hold on, let me look at. So like Melumist, actually. So like, if you look at the old design for Melumist, I'm just gonna the old design for Melumist. So this silhouette, if you look at it right next to this one. This silhouette, if we block this out in one color, is just one solid shape, right? Like there's a couple of things on the outside, but it's kind of just one big solid shape. Whereas the new illustration of Melumist. So here's this silhouette, and then here's this silhouette. So this allows you to see more of the character's physique, even though the entire thing is blocked out. You can still see the flow and movement of the body. You can see different weights of different parts of the character's anatomy. Now, it might be a preference thing. I personally believe that this, where you have a little bit more going on, makes for more interesting design than something like this. That's my thoughts on it, and I think a big part of that was including negative space, making these, so like you can't even see any of the spiky parts. Like the big part of this character design was that it's supposed to look like a big false mouth. You can't see any of that in the silhouette. You don't see that at all. Here you actually see the silhouette, the jaws of the fake mouth. So I think that's something that I've learned. But again, like, I'm still figuring this stuff out for myself, so I can't give you too much advice on that. Yeah, so yeah, it is very similar, but that's another thing, like changing the pose so that you can sort of see it from the side. I did change the way like parts of it look and the way parts of it actually, fit on the body. But yeah, more or less it's pretty similar, but it's rotated a little bit so that you can see more of that in the silhouette. So considering pose, because again, like what I'm saying here, like this pose is all kind of mushed together. And that's just sort of how I did the reference pose. Maybe I could have spent more time taking the reference photo. You want to know what's really cringe? Speaking of how athletic I am. So in that photo, I'm squatting, right? And I took maybe 9 or 10 different reference photos. And the first couple times I did it, I was doing it myself. I was going back and forth. I was squatting in front of the camera, setting the camera on a timer, taking a picture, going back to the camera and looking at it and being like, no, this isn't good. I got to do it again. I actually got such a workout doing that my thighs hurt. I took this photo 2 days ago. My thighs still hurt. So there you go. That's how athletic I am. I need more water. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. What Gen 9 Pokemon do I like more in terms of Pokemon designs without biases? Oh, Mazza or Paldea? I can't answer that question. I think it's pretty even. 50-50. I mean, the thing about the Mazza region is that I designed almost all of those Pokemon myself, so obviously more of them cater to my own tastes. But what I like about the Paldea region is that it's a bunch of different designs catering to a bunch of different tastes. So, like, obviously, like, if I had to pick which region I had more Pokemon I liked in, it would probably be the region that I designed myself, because I designed them specifically with my own tastes in mind. But if I picked a region that I think was better designed overall because it catered to a broader audience with a bunch of different tastes, I would say Paldea. I'd say every official Pokemon region. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to go into the brushes. These are just default Procreate brushes. And I want to try just... That's too big. Just want to flick a little bit of these in there. Thank you. Just a little bit. Not in the darkest spots. Really some of them here and there. But that's nice. I think that's a nice little touch there. Makes it feel even more like sugar crystals. Do I ever think about getting an awesome hat so that the blinding glare from my beautiful bald head isn't so distracting? I'm gonna be honest, if I was wearing a hat right now, my face would be so sweaty. So I don't really want to have this light on right now, but when I turn it off, you sort of get like dark Jack underlit by my iPad. So like people will join the chat and I'll be like looking like this. Welcome to the stream. Today I'm drawing a bubblegum knight. So I don't really want, I'm not really going for those vibes. So I want this light on, so it's a little softer. But in the summertime, this light is actually so hot that it makes me a little sweaty. I'm a little greasy right now. I'm a little greasy. And if I was wearing a hat, I would be even more hot. Any advice on studying things for art? I'm massively struggling with my drawing my lizard folk D&D character because I've only studied humans. Study lizards. Go to the zoo, go to the pet shop. Find images online. Draw some lizards. I was talking about this yesterday. I love going to the zoo or like to a museum or something and just grabbing some pics of all the animals that I like to see. Even if I'm not like drawing something right on that day that has anything to do with any of those animals, I still like snapping some pics. Just because taking pictures are fun, but also you never know. Someday maybe I will want to use those images. We live in a beautiful age of the internet, where even if you don't have access to things like real animals, you can find things on the internet. Draw some lizards. Look at some diagrams of lizard anatomy. Look at lizard skeletons. Find the similarities between a lizard skeleton and a human skeleton. Hi, Eravas. Welcome. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the stream. How do you do cool lights, warm shadows without making it look muddy? Well, so something this is easier to do working digitally, so I'm going to give you advice from a digital artist, and it might not apply so much. I mean, it can apply to traditional illustration. I just don't know how to do it. But you just got to use saturation. You got to use a very strong contrast of colors. You know, if let me just. So let's say I'm using. Well, so there's my highlight. A nice, cool blue, and then my shadow is going to be a big red. See, that does look muddy, so you instead try using this. Try using a more saturated red. Contrary colors too, contrasting colors help a lot. Actually, it might even be better if I used orange here instead of a red, because orange and blue contrast with one another. It's a tricky thing. I would say practice with references first. Set up a situation where you have a warm light source or a cool light source and warm shadows and vice versa, and see how the light interacts. It's something that you have to sort of see and understand in real life. There's not like a trick that you can just do in a second. And if there is, whoever came up with that trick learned it by studying the way light interacts in real life.
Also, like, fundamentally, your darkest dark tone in your shadow area should still be, like, you can't have a darker tone in your light area than the lightest tone in your dark
Yeah.
area. So you just need to manage your values, and that will help you.
Yes. How do you deal with the piece in your head looking way better than the way you think it's going to turn out? So yeah, that's a problem that I
very much struggle with, because ever since I was a kid, I've enjoyed illustration because it allowed me to get the ideas in my head out onto canvas for other people to see. But of course, for a very long time, I couldn't get the things I saw in my head out onto the canvas. Really, what ended up being a deciding factor in changing that problem that I had was just forcing myself to learn techniques. You know, like, if you just draw, like for me, for a very long time, I liked drawing, and I drew a lot, so I picked up little tips and tricks, but I never really learned techniques. When I was actually able to learn techniques and understand very basic principles of art and illustration, then I was able to get those ideas out of my head and onto a piece of paper. You know, even the most skilled artists out there who can just seemingly whip out a piece of paper and draw something immediately and it looks fantastic, you know, those people train for a very long time to learn those skills. And I was like in denial about that for a very long time when I was younger. But it is very much the truth. And the other thing you have to realize is that even when something doesn't come out the way you wanted it to look in your head, that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to like it. I can't tell you how many times I've drawn something and I'm like, this is shit. And people look at it and they're like, that's fantastic. The best example of that would be like making changes to the Maza region Pokedex. Like, I make a change because I'm like, this looks terrible, and then someone comments like, the old design was so much better, why did you change it? And usually it's because it didn't look the way it does in my head. Like, I saw it in a certain way in my head, and I wasn't able to really get that out for whatever reason. And, you know, so I wanted it to look a certain way, and the person looking at it wanted it to look a certain way, and they weren't the same thing. And then that leads to someone going, why did you change it? I thought it looked really good. It's like, well, I wanted it to look the way I wanted it to look. Can I yell at you to go do some photography work that I've been putting off? Instead, Goofy go, no, I'm not gonna. You stay here and watch my stream. Put it off longer until I'm done streaming. Why do today what you can put off till tomorrow? That's a Squidward quote. If I were a D&D character, what class would I be? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what the classes are. I'd be a golden dragon. Be a wolf. Be a lion wolf hybrid. King of the jungle. I think sorcerer is what I played when we played D&D. It was sorcerer and then barbarian, but I don't know if that's the class that I would actually be. I think I just liked that. I like the idea of shooting lightning from my fingertips. I like being a lightning mage. The lightning mage zap my wife? Zap my wife. Sometimes lightning mages will zap your wife. You gotta be careful of that. Can I be a barbarian that's not very strong? Like a barbarian that still enters like a berserker's rage, but I can't really accomplish anything. I just get really pissed off and then I just start running around like slapping people and they get kind of irritated. That sounds fun. I'll be that. That's a canon event. A lightning mage zapped my wife in 1989.
No, it's a canon event for Emily Monaghan.
Is there a class that summons animals? I won't be that one. Druid? Is there a druid class? Beast tamer? Beastmaster? Yeah, I'll be Beastmaster. I want to summon... I want to have like a bear and boar sidekick. And they do all the fighting for me. But they're magical, so they never die. Also, the bear has armor, and the boar has golden tusks. And the bear can talk. And she really likes baking. And she has a little cute little house that she bakes pastries in. Little honey sweets. Little sweet potato brownies. Yes, obviously she makes bear claws, and they're delicious. Oh, and she can do like a little like, she can be like, anyone want my bear claws? And then she's offering treats, but then she can be like in combat, she'd be like, anyone want my bear claws? And then she kills someone. I think that'd be nice. And the boar can't talk, but he's very friendly to me, but he can be kind of grumpy around other people. And I have to sort of rein him in sometimes, because he can get a little grumpy. And he has very bristly fur, so he's not very fun to pet. But the bear has very soft fur. And I can use the bear as a bed. And just sleep on her. That's like one of my ultimate fantasies, to just use a giant bear as a bed. Not a dead bear. Like, have a live bear who's my friend. And like the bear falls asleep and then I fall asleep on top of the bear. A la the Jungle Book. If I can do that at some point in my life, if I could fall asleep on a big snoozing bear, I could die. I could have that bear maul me at that point in my life, because I will have lived a full and happy life. Any tips on how to draw curly hair? So I would line decker that too. Look at JC Linedecker and look at the way he turns multiple, because hair is made up of tons of different strands, right? I almost just went like this to show you what hair looked like. There's no hair up here. Hair down here. Hair is made up of bunch of little strands, obviously, but you can simplify them into little chunks. You know, and especially curly hair, I feel like is actually a little bit easier to draw than straight hair because it's already simplified into little shapes. Curly hair kind of has this shape to it. If you break it down to just the core and just those little curls, like each little curl of hair would kind of be like that. But you know, find a good reference picture, look at it, look at the hair, and find the way the light hits the hair and how each place where the light hits it breaks it up into little different shapes. And I would definitely recommend looking at JC Linedecker. I don't know how many different subjects he did that weren't just white people, so like it might be not the best reference if you're looking for like hair for people who aren't white. But he does do a really good job at simplifying hair into simple geometric shapes. And if you look at hair from any kind of person and try to find those shapes in that hair, you'll be able to. That's how I would do it, at least. That's one way to do it. There are a lot of different ways to do it. That's how I would do it. I like simplifying things into little shapes. The illustrator of this, or the person who came up with this character design, person who commissioned me, might already have a name for this blade. I don't know. I'd have to ask them. It's always very interesting working on a character design that's not my own, because, you know, I'll have all of these ideas and thoughts, you know, based off of just the visuals of the character, but then I'm like, okay, I don't want to make too many changes. This isn't my character. Can't just do whatever I want with it. Although I do like to take a few artistic liberties I was talking about this yesterday. When someone hires you to do a commission as an illustration, they're not just hiring you for your technical abilities, they're hiring you for your ideas. So it's always worth it to try to include a few artistic liberties and run it by your client. Make sure they're okay with it, and if they are, include that and make those changes that you feel like would help improve the character's design. And that's what I did with this one. It's a little different. I didn't take any major liberties with this, but if you look at the illustration that they gave me to go off of, it's a little bit different. Is it better? Is it getting better at art a bad thing for it if I already have a job? Huh, that's an interesting question. You mean like if you already have a job that's not an artistic job, should you not bother getting better at art? Because why not just keep the job you have? I mean, that's a pretty big question. I don't know if I can really answer that for you, but I could put a few thoughts in your head. I believe that a lot of people, especially in this country, in my country, I don't know if you're from the same country as me, I'm from the United States. In this country, people tend to prioritize things that are productive, things that contribute to society. And really what that means, and really what we've been raised to believe that means, is making money. People believe that the most important thing you can do is make money. And let's be honest, making money is pretty important. We all need money. Because unfortunately we do live in a society. We live in a society. I can never say that phrase without picturing a fucking Joker meme, but we do. We live in a society where we need money. We need money. We need to pay rent. We need to buy food. So if you are struggling with money and you have a job and that job is not treating you well or is not providing you with enough money, or I think more importantly is not giving you a good quality of life, you're not enjoying yourself, you're not happy, you don't feel fulfilled, and you have the luxury of being able to say, listen, I need to find something better for my life, then yeah, maybe pursue the idea of art. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not something that you can just pick up and expect to make money off of it. Even if you're an incredibly talented illustrator, even if you are an artist who makes really good work, it doesn't mean you can just make money doing it. So if you want to become a professional illustrator and you want to do this for a living, really take time and consider that decision. Put some money away. If you have support systems, make sure that those people are there to help you if you need some money in the interim time. If you don't have support systems, then yeah, you gotta put some money away. Because even if you start off and you're the best illustrator in the world, there's gonna be a time where you're not making money. That is just how it works. And so I'm not gonna tell you to just get up and become an illustrator professionally. And you're just going to do what you love and it's going to be awesome and you're going to make money doing what you love. It's not really that simple. But I do believe that people should pursue what makes them feel good, not what makes them the most money. Because, you know, I know having money makes people feel good, but that's not the only problem out there. There are other things that keep us from feeling good. But it's complicated. It's a tough thing to address. Takes a lot of self-reflection, a lot of courage, and a lot of, you know, rational thought. You can't just be bold and jump into it and say, this is what I'm going to do and it's going to work because I believe it'll work. Like, that's a great attitude to have, but make sure that you back that up with a little bit of grounded reality. And that can be the other thing. You know, people are saying it could be a fun hobby. Absolutely. It can be something that you do on the side and improve on over time. And you can keep working, you know, for whatever job you work for now, make some money doing that, and then maybe someday you find you're talented enough, or I shouldn't say that you're talented enough, that you have the skills to find work doing that. I mean, we live in a time now where sharing things on the internet is so easy. So you could just share your artwork just for the hell of it. And who knows, maybe eventually people will find your work and say, listen, I want to pay this person to make artwork for me. And then once you start making money, you realize, oh, maybe I can quit my job. I think the most prudent advice I can give you is don't jump into anything too quickly. Definitely don't be hasty about that kind of thing. In any case, if you're thinking about any kind of major life change in terms of career, take your time. All right. Well, for about an hour and a half. I think I'm going to start wrapping up the stream pretty soon. I've painted some good crystals. I've made some good progress on this. I'm feeling good. Get in my little sparkle flecks in here. Come in with the eraser tool and clean them up a little bit, though. We don't want them to be too willy-nilly. We want to put a little consideration into it. Alright, I think this is where I'm going to end the stream for today. So thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys. I hope I was able to give some good advice. I know not all the advice I gave was good, but I hope some of it was good. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. Probably be working on some more commission stuff tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be done with this by then, but I might not be. So if I'm not, then this is what I'll be working on. But until then, peace, and I'll see you in the next one.